Happy New Year's, everybody! Tell them Happy New Year's! Happy New Year's! Hey you guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Shania, and for today's video, I thought that I would discuss all of my favorite reads in the year of 2019. Are you guys doing anything to celebrate the new year, or did you guys already celebrate, and what did you guys do to celebrate the year 2020? It's currently 3 o'clock on New Year's Eve right now where I'm at, so we still haven't welcomed the new year in yet, and I plan on going out tonight. I have no idea what I'm going to be doing, but I did my makeup. And I'm probably gonna start drinking wine since I'm doing nothing right now and reading, and I think that's the best way to bring in the new year is read and drink wine. I do quickly want to mention that all of these books I'm going to be discussing in today's video are in no particular order in regards to my favorite of all time to my top 10 favorite or anything like that. They're in no particular order, except there are 2 books in this video that are my legit top favorite. They're probably fighting for my overall #1 spot of the year. But I'll let you guys know when I get to those top 2 books. They'll probably be towards the end of the video, but they are for sure my favorites of all. So without further ado, let's just get into the video. So 2019 was a really, really good year for me reading wise. It was probably the best year I've had ever, I want to say. This year I read 90 books total, which is just crazy. I cannot believe I read that many books. Though I didn't meet my reading challenge, unfortunately, which was 100 books, but still 90 is really good and I'm still really happy with myself. So out of all of those 90 books, there are 11 that I'm going to be discussing that were just, in my mind, the best out of all of them. So the very first book that I want to discuss that I loved so much, I gave this book 5 stars, it was just so good, and that is Sadie by Courtney Summers. This book was so good, you guys. It was so good. Before I had picked up this book, I had heard so many great things about it, particularly with the audiobook. The audiobook is supposed to be just phenomenal. I haven't personally listened to the audiobook, I physically read it, but I've heard it's really good because this book is told in a podcast style, and so that's why I feel like the audiobook is probably really good because it's formatted in that podcast style. So if you guys haven't heard of this book, it's about a young girl who ends up going missing after the murder of her sister, and she's on the hunt to find the killer that ended up killing her sister. And so it's told from her point of view, Sadie's, and then it's also told in the point of view of a man who is starting a new podcast series, and he wants to dive into the mystery of where this girl went, and he gets closer and closer. So it's kind of told in 2 different formats or timelines, if you want to call it, in Sadie's timeline and then also in the podcast guy's timeline as well. But it's so good. It's so heartbreaking. There are so many hard topics that are discussed in this book, and Courtney Summers does it just phenomenally well and handles all of these issues perfectly. She just did a really good job of handling these hard topics, especially in regards to young adulthood and struggles within the family and acting on revenge. She handled all of them so well, and I feel like this book is just a great standalone, and I just don't feel like this book is hyped enough for how good it is, and I think that everyone should read this because it was so good. It was such a good book. So the next books that I really want to discuss is a series that I just loved, and I burned through them so quickly. It was so good, and that is the Throne of Glass series by Sarah J. Maas. I don't have the original copy on me right now for the Throne of Glass, the first one, so I'm showing you guys the collector's edition, which is just gorgeous, but this series is so good, so incredibly good. It has my favorite book girlfriend of all time. She is badass. She's everything that I want in a heroine. She is, like I said, badass. She's an assassin, and she takes care of herself. She takes no excuses for anything, and she just fights for survival. She knows her worth. She knows her beauty, and that's what I love in heroines. I don't like when they're, weak and don't believe in themselves, and they need a man to believe in themselves to get things done. I hate when that happens, and Selena Sardathian, the main character in this book, definitely does not do that. She takes care of herself in every way, and I love her so much. She's just the most incredible character, honestly. Like, Sarah J. Maas does, in my mind, a really good job of making really great characters that you can relate to and really learn things from, I feel like. And I love her for that. I know that there is issues in regards to Sarah J. Maas's books with diversity and whatnot, but this is still a really great book. Mila, you need to calm down, girl. If you guys haven't heard of this series, it is about a young girl, Selena Sardathian, who is an assassin, and she gets tasked with becoming the king of Ardalan. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but she is tasked with basically being part of the king's challenge for his assassin. Yeah, like he needs an assassin and she has to go in this competition with all these other trained assassins to become the king's true assassin. But honestly, from that description, there's so much more that happens in this book that I can't even tell you guys about. And within the entire series, there's like 7 books in this series, and they're pretty lengthy, but it's so worth it because this, like I said, this series is so good, and what you think is gonna happen in like the very first book or the very first 3 books basically is not how it turns out at the very end when Kingdom of Ash, the final book, happens, because there's just so much that happens, so much world building, so many characters, and so many lovable characters. Like I said, if you guys like fantasy, then you guys will love this because it does deal with a fantasy world. I don't even know what to say more than like, this is such a great series. One of the goals that I had for the year 2019 was to read more classics than I have in the past, and while I didn't read as many classics as I would have liked, I did get to a few, and one of my favorites that I read this year was Pride and Prejudice by Jane Austen. Oh, this was so good. I'm so happy I finally picked this up. I had picked it up in the past and like started it here and there, but I never actually fully read it, and I finally decided that this was the year that I was going to pick it up and I was going to finish it, and I'm so glad that I did because oh my gosh, it was so good. I'm in love with Elizabeth and Mr. Darcy's relationship. It was so good, and it's hyped for such a great reason. Like, this book shows how strong a woman can be and that she don't need no man, basically, to run her life. Honestly, the strength that Elizabeth had was just great, and all of her quirky little comments that she had back and, like, her little snapbacks to these men, like, you can't control me, like, it was so good. I loved her character so much, and I love Mr. Darcy. I love that he was kind of an ass, really, is what he was, but he struggled with how he felt about her, and eventually he figured out that he loved her, and everything was gonna be okay, and I don't want to spoil it, but, like, it's Pride and Prejudice. You guys should know about Pride and Prejudice by now, right? But anyways, this is like the best classic that I read this year, and it was a good book, and I'm really, really happy that I picked it up. So the next book that I'm discussing is one that is a part of another series, and that is the Obsidian series by Jennifer L. Armentrout. I know that this book has been around for a while, but this one isn't necessarily my favorite of the series. It's actually Opposition, which, like, why are they 2 different covers? Like, that really pisses me off. Rant time, okay? I hate when books change their covers halfway through. Why? Why are you changing it? Especially when the first cover looks so good and then you change it to this. Like, no! I picked up this series like way back in 2014 and I read it, but once I got to the 4th book, I only read half of it and then I just stopped. I don't know why I stopped because I know I was enjoying this series. I think maybe just life got in the way because 2014 was like when I graduated high school and went to college, so probably life. That's usually my excuse. But anyways, yeah, so I never finished this series, and then this year I decided to pick it back up and read it again. So I did, and I'm really, really glad I did because this one, Opposition, was just so good, and it was such a great ending to the series. I loved it so much. It like pulled at my heartstrings, it had me laughing, it had me crying, and that's when I know a book is like so good, is when it triggers all of those emotions and like makes me giggle and make cute little noises when I'm reading. Like, that's when you know the book is so good, when it just tugs at those emotions that you have. So, needless to say, I really liked this one. Obviously, I love Katie and Damon's relationship. It's really powerful, and they go through a lot of struggles together, but they always come out on top, and the series was so good, and I don't feel like it's hyped enough as it should be. I feel like this was the perfect ending to the series, and I really like this one, you guys, and if you guys haven't picked up this series, you definitely should. So the next book that I read this year isn't necessarily a classic, but it is one that is very hyped and very well known for a really great reason, and it's by one of the best authors, I feel like, during our time period right now ever, and that is It by Stephen King. I have been wanting to read this book for so long, but honestly, you guys, that size is daunting as hell. I mean, this is over like 1,000 pages. That comes in at like over 1,100 pages, which is super daunting, especially for the fact like the print isn't like big. Like it's pretty small, and she thick. She a thick girl. But I finally picked up this book in honor of the new movie that came out this year, which was It Chapter 2, and I'm so glad I did because I just became obsessed with like Pennywise and all the Losers Club. It was so good, and honestly, there's a lot of topics that are in this book that was really difficult to read through, like super difficult, and I ended up giving this one 4 stars instead of 5 like the other ones in this. It was mostly just because there's a couple scenes that I wasn't really okay with, but I mean, it's Stephen King, and can we even be surprised at this point? Honestly though, this book really showed me how amazing of an author Stephen King really is. I've read other works by him in the past, but this one was just probably the best one I've ever read, and there's a whole serious reason why this is hyped because he's such a great writer, and while there are difficult topics, he, like I said, he handles them so well, and he kind of plays all sides of the field in my mind in regards to this book and other books that he's written where there are difficult things to discuss. I'm sorry if the lighting keeps changing, but the sun is rising and my window's like right over here, so it just keeps pouring in. So the next book that I'm going to be discussing is one that actually came out later this year, and I'm so glad it did because it's so good, but it's part of the young adult community again, and that is The Beautiful by Renee Ahdieh. I have been waiting for vampires to make a comeback in the young adult fiction community for so long because, oh my gosh, that's like what triggered my reading overall. I mean, Twilight, anybody? Seriously? But other than the vampires, everything else that is mentioned in this book is exactly what I would want in a book. It has literally everything I'd want in a book. I mean, first of all, it's set in New Orleans, and like, I've wanted to go to New Orleans for so long, and I'm just, everything New Orleans always intrigues me, so the fact that it's set in New Orleans is amazing. Also, it's set in the 1800s, which is also a really like intriguing time period, and there's a lot of French language in this book, which is also really cool as well. But our main character also talks about Shakespeare all the time, so I mean, what more could you really want in a book? You got New Orleans, you got vampires, you got Shakespeare, and you got the 1800s. Like, it's perfect. Okay, now I've got like little disco lights on my face from the blinds. So this video is just a shit show going into the year 2020. Anyways, the next book that I really enjoyed in the year of 2019 is a part of another series, and that is the Arc of the Scythe series by Neil Shusterman. But specifically Scythe, because I haven't finished Thunderhead yet, and I don't know when I'll be finishing it. I'm still like 200 pages in, and I'm not DNFing it though, because I know I'm gonna finish this damn series. I'm just lazy, and I'm a mood reader, and I'm just not in the mood for it right now, but I will be finishing it. Anyways, I really loved this book, mostly for the concept. There hasn't been a lot of like dystopian books recently, since like Hunger Games and Divergent. I love Jude and Cardan and their relationship specifically in this book, and all the characters and everything plot-wise that happens within this one. Alright, so the next books that I'll be discussing are part of another series, surprise, surprise, and that is the Six of Crows duology by Leigh Bardugo. Oh, is this book series amazing. Honestly, first of all, if I had to choose like my top 3 in this whole video of my faves for this year, it's definitely like this comes in at number 3. Like this series is so flipping good. Like the Grishaverse trilogy or the Shadow and Bone trilogy I didn't really like at all, but this shit right here, so good. Oh my goodness. And first of all, let's talk about how beautiful these books are. Like black sprayed edges, are you kidding? That's like the most beautiful thing ever. If I see a book that has black sprayed edges, I'm like, ooh, that's mine. And the fact that it's like black all over, it's gorgeous. So beautiful. This is probably, honestly, like the first duology I've really ever read. Most of the time, especially in the YA community, books are going to be like trilogies, or they're going to be like 6 books in a series. They're never usually duologies, but I love that this was a duology. I love that everything in it was super unique, and it was like straight to the point, and the fact that Leigh Bardugo just went gung-ho and got it in 2 books, it was so good. Alright, so moving on, we are now in the top 2 favorite books of the entire year. And they are both like fighting for the like number 1 spot of the year, but honestly, if I had to choose, it's gonna be a certain one over another one. But they're also very different because one is a standalone and one is a series. So I'm first going to discuss the standalone book. It's just, it's so good. It became like my all-time favorite standalone book ever. It was so well done, and it came out this year, actually, and that is Daisy Jones and the Six by Taylor Jenkins Reid. Honestly, you guys, I don't know if I've ever read a book in my entire life where I had, like, pure heartbreak. Like, I felt heartbreak, and it was so heart-wrenching, and, like, it killed me. This book killed me. If you guys haven't heard of this one, it's about a 1970s band's rise to fame and then their inevitable fall and all the complications in between of how they got started and why they broke up. Her writing style is so good, especially in this book, that I almost felt like these characters were real. Like, I was looking them up. Even though I knew that this was fiction, I was like looking up the band and I was like, where are these songs? What is about the band? What's going on in their lives right now? That's how good this historical fiction book was, is the fact that I legitly thought it was real. This book is also told in an interview format, so there's 6 different characters giving their piece in regards to the events that led up to their breakup. Also, if you guys are really into audiobooks, you guys should definitely listen to this one. This is like the best audiobook I've ever listened to, and I think it's probably because, one, it is told in an interview format, so it makes it really easy to read, and it also has a full cast, so that's really nice in regards to everybody having their own voice, and some of the narrators in this book are also real-life actors in movies and TV shows, so that really shows in the audiobook in regards to how they produce the characters through the audiobook. Alright, you guys, so we are at the end of this video, and I'm going to be sharing with you guys probably my all-time favorite series ever, and I feel like you guys are probably going to guess what it is because I talk about it all the time. And maybe my goal next year is that I should maybe not talk about this series as much, but like, I gotta talk about my favorite series, so yeah, that goal is not happening. But if you guys haven't guessed what my favorite series of the year is and my favorite series of all time is, then you guys should know that it's this bad boy right here. So yes, my favorite series is A Court of Thorns and Roses by Sarah J. Maas. Oh my god, do I love this series so much. This series is the one that I've reread the most. It is so well done. It's the very first one is a retelling of Beauty and the Beast, and honestly, it's probably one of the better retellings I've ever read. Even though the first half of this book isn't like the greatest, but the second half is really where it kicks off, and a lot of people say that the book starts in the second half of the book. So I might agree, I might disagree, I don't know. I feel like it could go either way, but I really, really love this book alone. But what I really love is this one. Like, you guys know that this one is where it's at if you guys have read this series. I don't feel like I've ever met someone that was like, Court of Mist and Fury is definitely not my favorite book in that series. It's like one of the other ones. No, that has never happened. I have yet to meet someone. This series is just, it's my baby. It's my baby. Oh my god, I love it so much. So those are all my favorite books that I read in the year of 2019. Like I said, it was a great year. I had a great time reading all these books, and I mean, it was a great year because I started BookTube and I was able to talk to you guys about my favorite books, and I will never take that for jeopardy. It is the best decision I ever made, and I'm so happy to be in this community with you guys. Anyways, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and please let me know down below what your guys' favorite reads were of the year, because I like being able to see if our interests are similar, or if there's any books that I need to check out myself that I haven't already. But other than that, if you guys want to follow me on my social media, be sure to do so, as I will have it linked down below as always, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!